Itoki was a lonely loser nerd who used to spend all his time studying like a dweeb and never went out to party with his friends. However, he was stalked every day by a mysterious ninja girl called Ketsu. So one day, Itoki decided to run away from her and began parkouring around town. Suddenly, a truck appeared out of nowhere and was about to ice-sky him to another world. But Itoki committed the greatest anime taboo and backflipped over the truck like a true gymnast. His mother worked at a grocery store with his uncle Takesa, who was a heavy smoker and used to slack off in his work. After the truck mishap, Takesa came to collect him and was taken aback to see that he had sustained no injuries from the crash. The next day, Ketsu resumed, following him only to discover a heartfelt letter in his locker. Throughout the day, he couldn't shake the thought of the letter, and later he encountered the girl. She introduced herself as Satomi, but when Itoki tried to introduce himself, she revealed that she had always been aware of him and admired his daring truck flip. Consequently, she invited him to her place since her parents would be out. Itoki got excited and told his mother about his new girlfriend, but she strictly forbade him not to meet her under any circumstances. However, he didn't listen to her and went to her house the very next day. Inside her room, Itoki looked around uncomfortably, but Satomi walked in with drinks for both of them and desperately asked him to be her boyfriend. As she drew closer to kiss him, our man fumbled the bag and decided to remain an anime protagonist forever. As he began looking around the room, hoping she was merely messing around, he looked under the bed and saw two glowing eyes from a nin suit staring at him. As he fell back, his face was sliced with a knife, and 3 ninjas flew into the room, with Satomi looking to slash his throat. This is why you should always listen to your mother. But at that moment, a knife flew into the room, exploding into a smoke bomb, and Ketsu appeared in the smoke, pulling Itoki with her. As she began kicking off the ninjas, she threw him out the window. Luckily, he fell into a canopy and was rescued by a lady. As the car sped away, Itoki began screaming, but the lady told him to be silent. It was revealed to be Riha, who worked with Itoki's mother at the store. After realizing who they were, Itoki wondered where they were going, so Riha set a place far away from the city. However, a jeep drove into their way, and as they sped across the road, the jeep spewed dust on their window and laid spikes into their tires, sending them crashing into the wall. As Itoki woke up, Riha pulled him out of the car and told him to return down the road they came from. As they continued fighting off the opposing force, Itoki began running away, wondering how he got into this mess. After running all day and night, he realized that he was lost and couldn't find his way back. Suddenly, the lights went out in the streets and in the whole city, leaving Itoki wandering in the darkness. But luckily a policeman appeared behind him. As Itoki tried repeating his story, a ninja appeared behind the man and sliced off his throat. Itoki looked horrified and started backing away, but he bumped into another ninja who smacked him into a wall. With Itoki gagged and tied up, he closed his eyes, ready to give up. However, Takesa appeared before them, smoking a cigarette. When he told the slain police that he would slice his head off, the man swiftly stood up. Apparently, he was one of them. The lights turned back on in the street, and in a flash, Takesa teleported beside Itoki. The ninjas jumped back in fear, but began charging toward him as he transformed into a ninja of his own. After a few hours, Takesa screamed for Itoki to wake up, and as he did, he began wondering where they were. He told them that they were at their family home, and inside, Itoki saw everyone bowing to the ground as his mother walked into the room. He looked shocked to see her, and when he called her mother, she told him to call her chief. She looked cold, and the sight of her made Itoki afraid. Soon, she began telling him that they are a ninja clan from the IGA village who have lived in peace for decades by using the store as a front for their activities. However, the Koga clan, renowned for being the most powerful clan in the world, were looking to destroy their village and annihilate him since he was next in line to rule. After saying these words, she asked him to become a ninja and to help fight for their village. Meanwhile, someplace else, hundreds of people gathered in a huge town hall as a man addressed them with his speech. It appeared to be the substitute chief of the Koga village, who claimed that they would take revenge for the death of their previous village chief. Itoki still would not accept, so Takesa began dragging him outside. While outside, Takesa told him that his choices were to either become a ninja or become sushi for the Koga clan. Itoki screamed his frustration at both options. His uncle wondered if he would rather be sent off to a faraway country until a new successor was chosen, but Itoki was afraid of staying away from his mother. As he began crying, he finally agreed to become the next leader. Meanwhile, in a faraway cabin, Satomi and the strange man realized that Itoki had been taken away to the IGA village, so they decided to wait for their next opportunity to eliminate him. Meanwhile, the members of the Koga clan engaged in an internal quarrel about the assassination of Itoki, and the acting chief pointed out that since the Koga clan was far superior in strength, they could crush the IGA clan anytime they wanted. The following morning, as Itoki woke up, he saw Riha waiting outside his room and was relieved knowing she was safe. After a few hours, she showed him a video of a ninja school where they were hoping to send him, but Itoki was surprised that it looked like a regular school. Riha told him that his exam into the school was only in a few days, causing him to scream in shock. A few days later, Itoki returned home, and while having dinner with his mother, he decided to ask about the death of his father, since he was the former leader of their clan. But Yuma thought it was best not to dig into the past, and told him not to think about it. The following morning, Takesa and Ketsu arrived to pick him up for his exam. However, Itoki thought he was not ready and started wondering if he should practice some fire-breathing jutsus. Our boy thinks he is a ninja from the Leaf Village, so Takesa began teasing him and called his cigarette a fire technique. Ketsu told him that there were no fire-breathing techniques, but Itoki thought she was trying to trick him. A few hours later, they arrived at a mall for Itoki's exam, and as they walked inside, Itoki thought it looked like a regular store. So Ketsu told him a secret code for the attendant, and after telling her, she led them to a secret passage. As they went through the passage, they arrived at a room full of mean-looking faces, but a few minutes later, the teacher arrived telling them that their test was a hide-and-seek challenge and that they had to find each other within a few minutes. It was first Ketsu's turn to find her opponent, and with her extraordinary ninja skills, she was easily able to catch him. However, when it was time for his test to begin, Itoki realized that his partner for the exam was Satomi, who was disguised in a wig. After she walked into the store, the teacher told Itoki to begin his search for her, and soon a random man began walking towards him with a knife, but Takesa pulled him into an aisle, wringing his neck and pretending to help him around the store. While Itoki was afraid that his time was running out, Ketsu told him that a group of ninjas were trying to kill him, so she suggested running away, but she knew he would fail the exam if he left. As a little girl began walking towards them with a balloon, it burst with a kunai, flying through to Itoki, but Ketsu blocked it. Satomi smiled, and as Ketsu looked for her, she became invisible and vanished. Ketsu told Itoki to be watchful and began running off to look for her. After a minute, she arrived in a passage and found Satomi waiting for her. As she charged towards her, Ketsu transformed into a ninja and dodged her attacks, kneeing her ribs and throwing her a kick. Ketsu went into a new passage looking for her, but Satomi became visible flying towards her with a slash. However, two other ninjas jumped into the corridor, trapping her inside and allowing Satomi to run off. Meanwhile, Itoki was waiting in fear, and as Satomi began rushing towards him, he sprayed the area and rang the fire alarm, causing everyone to run out. As it began showering, Satomi became visible, but as she drew her knife, she charged towards him but was kicked back by Ketsu. Immediately, two agents caught her, and as they began taking her away, Itoki thought of touching her and passing the test, but another agent told him that the test was already over. A few hours later, Takesa told Itoki that he failed the exam and would have to hide until the following year, but a moment later, after he received a call, he told Itoki that he's been accepted into the school, leaving him shocked. Meanwhile, an agent of the Ninja Security Council visited the building of the Koga clan. He informed the acting chief about the actions of his clan members during the exam. However, the chief showed him an old scroll and claimed that those members were fugitives of the clan who had run away a long time ago. He apologized for their behavior and easily dodged the situation. In a prison cell, Satomi was held captive and kept talking to herself like a crazy girl. Back at the IGA clan home, Takesa told Yuma that there was certainly a traitor amongst their clan. After a few weeks, Itoki was sitting with his friends on their graduation day, and he had just revealed to them about transferring to another school. But to his surprise, his friends motivated him and wished him the very best for his journey ahead, which made him cry. The next day, he was ready to leave for the school, and as he traveled through the city, he thought he might never return home again. Soon, they arrived at a train station, and Takesa waved him goodbye. A train stopped before them, and as they traveled in it, Itoki noticed the beautiful scenery around them. Arriving at the school, Itoki met a beautiful girl who introduced herself as Ryoko, but after a while, she began leaving with her friends. Itoki began waving goodbye, but Ketsu kicked him from behind, telling him to walk. After a few minutes in the school, Itoki noticed that Ketsu had vanished from his side, and as he began calling for her, a young group of students bumped into him. They were about to knock out his tooth when a girl hurried to him, pretending to know him, and pulled him away from the boys. She thought he was a new student and advised him to avoid them, as they were the elites of the Koga clan. She introduced herself as Kyrie, but when Itoki revealed that he was from the IGA clan, she was shocked. Kyrie explained that his clan was very popular even amongst non-ninja people, so she put her hand forward and asked him to be her friend. After a few more minutes, Kyrie met Itoki in class, so he decided to introduce her to Ketsu. As they tried getting their meal tickets, Kyrie moved Itoki's hand to a ninja meal, which turned out to be a little piece of food. Itoki looked across the dining hall and saw the boys he had earlier met. So Kyrie told him that they were from the Koga clan, the same clan that was trying to kill him. Suddenly, one of the boys stood up from the table wondering if Itoki came to fight. His name was Amira, and as he continued screaming at them, Kyrie immediately hurried away. However, another boy told him to be silent. He was Suzaku, and he was the only son of the most powerful member of the Koga clan. He said that Itoki's family murdered their leader, so he was looking to get his revenge on him. That evening, Itoki, Ketsu, and Kyrie arrived at their dormitory, and Itoki saw a luxurious building which he thought was his new home. But Kyrie shattered his excitement when she told him that was the Koga clan dormitory, and theirs was an old, haunted-looking house. As they walked inside, Kyrie advised Itoki to avoid Suzaku as much as he could. That night, in his room, Ketsu came in to tell him that she would always protect him from everyone, even if it made him uncomfortable. By the following day, an instructor told the students that they would be learning how to use ninja suits and cores, but Itoki had never heard of those before, so he watched Ketsu activate her suit before activating his own. When the teacher told them to travel across the island for their prize, the students swiftly ran off, jumping down the mountain. However, Itoki discovered that he could not move in the suit, but Ketsu decided to ignore him and began running off. Luckily, Ryoko found him and started moving her hands around his suit until he could move again. She told him that his suit was too tight, and as she pushed him off, he began running, but after a moment, he fell to the ground. However, he noticed he had not suffered any damage at all, so Ryoko explained that this was the power of the ninja core, the most important part of the ninja suit. She also revealed that she was from a Sega village, which specialized in making such suits and ninja tools. Meanwhile, Ketsu and Suzaku were climbing to a rooftop, but Suzaku suddenly flew towards her and hit her with a kick. As she blocked, she began falling, but luckily caught the wall again. As soon as Suzaku claimed his prize, Ketsu also claimed her own. Itoki and Ryoko were running across a bridge when they saw Suzaku running towards Itoki to attack him. As he jumped flying towards him with a blow, Ketsu punched him away, but he began running again. After running across the bridge, Itoki found a broken core and decided to find who it was. He realized it was Kyrie, who was already beaten up and her prize stolen from her, so Itoki decided to help her get it back. As a group of bullies cornered another student, Itoki approached them demanding Kyrie's prize. When he realized that they were never going to return it, he rushed towards the leader, but he flipped over him, causing Itoki to bump into the wall. The leader knocked Itoki around and nearly destroyed his core, but he swiftly rolled away. Itoki rushed towards him again, and as he grabbed him, the boy pulled his hair and threw him away. He stepped on Itoki's head, ready to squash it, but their master appeared before them and told them to continue their task. Before long, Itoki returned the prize to Kyrie as he was able to steal it back before getting thrown away, and as he helped her to the bridge, they found Ryoko returning. Itoki asked to help Kyrie return and soon hurried to finish his task. However, by the time he arrived, he found a master eating what was left of the prizes. The next day, as Itoki went to get his meal card, a group of bullies threatened to beat him up, but Ketsu decided to stay by his side for support. As they tried eating, Kyrie and Ryoko joined them at the table. Meanwhile, at the Ninja Security Council, a secret meeting was held to investigate the murder of a chief of Koga clan. And after a thorough examination, the council decided to secretly investigate Takesa since his ninja skills were extraordinary and had earned him the title of a demigod. A week later in class, the teacher told the students about a test they had to take proving their abilities as a ninja, but Itoki didn't know what she was talking about, so after the class, he asked Ryoko to teach him how to use weapons as he thought he would have to defend himself in battle. However, Kyrie walked in on them and told them that the actual test was to sneak into her office and steal the answers from her vault. That afternoon, While Ryoko was showing Itoki a ninja device, she began telling him about her dream to continue as a ninja forever. But her father wanted her to become a dutiful wife after leaving the school. This made her sad, and she thought about never returning home again. In Itoki's room later at night, he wondered why he was chosen to be the next leader of his clan, as he thought he didn't deserve to be in the position. Ketsu told him that the clan was only concerned about passing on leadership to whoever was next, and it didn't matter if a leader couldn't change his own diaper. Meanwhile, Takesa secretly met the leader of the Sega clan, who was also his old friend and the father of Ryoko. He revealed to Takesa that the Koga clan had shifted their operations to some other contractor overseas and had instead asked him to do a different task. However, he hesitated to obey their orders and said this was why he wanted to end the Sega clan bloodline as the last chief. The following day, while Itoki and his friends were plotting a way to break into the teacher's office, two boys asked to join their parade. Having seen Itoki take on the bullies during their task, they thought he was the perfect role model, so Itoki decided to accept them into the group at school. That night, Itoki and his friends snuck through the corridor heading for the teacher's office. Ryoko gave him a drone to spy on her, and as he threw it, it flew into the office looking at the vault and keys, but as it returned, it smashed into a glass, alerting the teacher immediately. The students began flying out of the window, but Itoki's hook came off, and he began falling, but he was caught mid-air and pulled up before the teacher saw him. When the teacher began chasing Kyrie, she threw a smoke bomb and ran off screaming in fear. Meanwhile, the new rookie of the Ninja Security Council spied on Takesa as he prepared to sneak inside Sega's building. He checked for security cameras and thermal sensors through his ninja lens, and after a small stretch, he threw his Shuin drones away and rushed inside the building at high speed, using his ninja skills. The rookie was amazed. Inside the office, Itoki and Ryoko discovered that the key to the safe had vanished, and before long, a group of bullies began beating up Itoki's friend, so Ketsu hurried to save him. Afraid of getting caught by the teacher, Ryoko decided to hack into the safe and was finally able to steal the answers. So Itoki told everyone to withdraw from the mission, and the Koga boys left as well. Back at the Sega building, Takesa sneaked into the office room looking for the blueprints the leader mentioned. However, he found a safe to be empty and started to look around. At that moment, the rookie tried to spy on him from the ventilation ducts, but Takesa was a genius, and he already knew about her presence. So he alerted the security through a ninja toy he had planted in the duct, and the rookie was caught by the security, enabling him to escape easily like a boss. However, the following day in class, as they prepared to take the test, they discovered that the answers were totally false, and they were basically screwed. After the test, Himura and his gang laughed at them because they had switched the answers in the vault before they arrived. Back at the dormitory, Ryoko revealed that even though the questions were totally different, she was able to solve them anyway. Itoki and the others were shocked to hear this, and he told her that she would be an awesome craftsman one day. At the IGA house, Takesa revealed to Yuma that the Koga clan intends to steal the secret ninja core of the IGA clan, and Yuma revealed that it was a secret weapon born during a war, and it has been passed through the IGA chiefs throughout the years. So they came to a conclusion that the Koga clan wants to initiate a war against the IGA village. The next day, Itoki and his friends began cleaning the school as a punishment for failing the test. But Ketsu suddenly pulled him aside and told him that there was a mole among them who was working with Suzaku and his friends and had switched the answers in the vault to screw them up. At these words, Itoki began staring at everyone's faces in shock. The following day in class, the teacher told them about their exam in the coming weeks, which were often extreme activities that could lead to their deaths. Itoki realized what her words meant and immediately became afraid. So after the class, he wondered if he could skip the exam since more than half the students were trying to eliminate him. But Ryoko told him that he would get kicked out of the school for being a disgusting weakling. While walking through the corridor, Itoki and Ketsu came across Sato, who promised to kill him in the exam, but they merely stared at him as he walked away. Meanwhile, at the Ninja Security Council, the head of security explained the history of ninjas to the rookie, and he revealed that the Koga leader Kashan Maru wanted to have peace amongst the ninja villages. However, he was still killed, and the Koga village holds a grudge against the IGA clan. He feared a large-scale war would break out, which could even harm the non-ninja civilians. At the Koga building, the acting chief told Suzuka's father that his son would be the perfect candidate as the next chief of the village. And in a flashback, we see that Suzuka was very close to the chief Kashan Maru, and he wanted to carry out his will of having peace in the world. In the dormitory that night, when his friends decided to create a plan for their exam, Itoki told them that he was going to bed. With a spy in their midst, all their plans would basically go up in smoke. However, as Itoki and Ketsu began to leave, Ryoko hurried to him and gave him a special mask that would change his face whenever he wanted. She thought he would need it in the exam and forced it into his hand even after he declined it. When Itoki and Ketsu came into his room, she told him that she would annihilate Shizuku during the exam, but Itoki was worried that it would be too dangerous for her. However, when she looked determined to carry out her duty, reminding him that she was his protector, he swiftly left the room. That night, while walking through the street, Itoki came across the master and was invited for tea. As they drank on a rooftop, the master began telling him about his father. He had met him several years ago and thought Itoki was just like him. However, Itoki was in no mood for a conversation, so he thanked him for the tea and left. The following day, while Itoki was looking for Ketsu, she jumped out of the tree before him and told him to steal the core from her suit. As he lunged at her, she dodged him, but he lunged again and got smacked to the ground. Ketsu thought he had no skill and dared him to steal the core from her since he was too much of a beta to take it. So he started running away as Ketsu had instructed him to do. After their practice, Ketsu showed Itoki a map explaining their plans for the exam and drawing a circle around it. When she was done, she squeezed the paper and threw it in the trash before pulling him outside. When the day arrived, the students waited in old abandoned buildings until a great sound went off, signaling the start of the exam. Ketsu began running out, and soon a group of Koga ninjas arrived looking for Itoki. They kicked the door in, but as they rushed inside, they were hit by a powerful gas and began to pass out. Itoki and Ketsu had set the trap and were pleased that their plans were falling into place. With only one survivor left, Itoki confronted him and realized that he was the spy in their group who had led them here through the map Ketsu threw out. However, he soon began apologizing, and now he wasn't sure what to do as he was beginning to feel sorry for him. After a few minutes, Amira arrived looking for Itoki, but he tried sneaking up on him. As he lunged for his hand, he missed and was elbowed to the ground, narrowly dodging getting stabbed. When he stood up, the mask on his face cracked, revealing he was Itoki disguised as the boy. However, Amira began smiling, and as he took off his own mask, he revealed he was Suzaku all along. Meanwhile, Ketsu found Suzaku alone by himself, but he also began taking off his mask, and it was evident they had switched places while pretending to be each other and were hoping to keep Ketsu away from Suzaku. Koga ninjas attacked her, but she kicked and blocked them away before drawing power from her core and slashing them off. Amira realized they couldn't beat her, so he detonated a bomb, blowing up everyone. At the same time, Itoki was running from Suzaku when he was kicked to the floor and flung backward. As Itoki threw a kunai at him, Suzaku caught it and nailed him in the leg, wounding him. He pulled him up and punched his face, but Itoki began running again. So Suzaku ran after him hungry for revenge and narrowly missed stabbing him as Itoki fell through the trees and continued running. Before long, he was kicked to the ground and a kunai was thrown in his back. Suzaku drew his knife and flew to stab him, but he missed as Itoki rolled away. Determined to leave, he thought his death would awaken more desire for revenge and soon began running again. However, the nutcase was certain that killing Itoki would bring him some weird peace and his blood would make for some good stew, so he ran after him. Itoki was breathless as he ran, afraid and drained, but as Suzaku jumped on him, he created smoke and vanished. Drones began flying towards him, but he blocked them all. However, Itoki took advantage of his distraction and swiftly slashed his core with his suit. Having lost its power, Suzaku realized that it was too late for him to fight back, but Itoki had no thought of killing him. As a blaring sound went off announcing the end of the exam, Itoki passed out on the ground. Several days later, he woke up in a hospital with his friends all staring at him, happy to see him alive. Ketsu immediately passed out from exhaustion, having waited at his bed all day and night. Meanwhile, Takesa sneaked inside another building with a rookie, spying on him again. She once again had to enter through the air vents, but what she saw next was shocking. It appeared to be the dead body of the Koga chief, Kishin Maru, and a group of scientists were seen with some technology shaped as human body parts. At that moment, she bumped into something invisible who turned out to be Takesa. As they exited the building, she questioned him about what was going on, but he told her to do her work by herself. In a change of scene, we see Kyrie as she goes to meet Suzaku, who told her that he has more work for her to do, to which she gladly agreed and called him Master Suzaku the Traitor. A few weeks later, they visited Itoki's family home for the holiday, and Itoki showed Ryoko and Kyrie to a room where they could stay. However, as soon as he left, Kyrie began snooping around the house looking to find their secret weapons before summoning a little bird. A moment later, the bird arrived in Suzuku's home, revealing a secret message from Kyrie that she has infiltrated the IGA house. Meanwhile, Itoki and his family arrived at a hospital to see Riha's husband, who had been unconscious for several years after an accident. He had worked for Itoki's mother as a ninja in their clan, and she felt responsible for his current state. That evening, Itoki and his mother cleared a gravesite. This was where his father was buried, and they came here every year in honor of his memory. Although Itoki could hardly remember him, he thought that he must have been a good man since everyone spoke so kindly of him. Soon, Itoki's mother began telling him about his father, who was murdered while trying to protect the village from invaders. He was on a mission with Takesa, who still blames himself for his death. She thought that the Koga clan were responsible and hoped that Itoki would not be killed like his father. The following day, Itoki and his friends arrived at the store to buy items for the family home. However, he soon discovered that everyone was a ninja for the clan. Later that day, as they arrived at the river hoping to catch some fish, Itoki saw the girls in stunning outfits and began stuttering at the sight of them. Kitsu walked into the water, and as she spotted a fish, she threw it right into Itoki's bucket. In a few minutes, they all began fishing. While fishing, Kyrie began telling Itoki about her clan and that they were considered irrelevant by other clans since there were only a few of them left and without a village of their own. When Itoki noticed she was beginning to look sad, he encouraged her to feel happy about herself. After all, he wasn't even half the ninja she was. Soon, they all arrived at the family home with their buckets filled up. As they moved around with food preparing for a feast, Takesa appeared behind Itoki. He had been away for some time and was happy to return home again. Since it was Itoki's first time at the feast, Takesa decided to tell him how it started. After his father died, his mother had made the hard decision of becoming the clan's new leader. Her decision saved the village from breaking apart, and now everyone loved her and would die for her in battle. He hoped Itoki would learn from her and do his best to become the chief of IGA. That evening, as they enjoyed the feast, Takesa began singing. Having drunk too much, so Sotsu smacked his head, putting him straight to sleep. A random IGA member explained to Itoki about the history of his father's death. And in a flashback, we see that everyone in the IGA clan blamed Takesa on the day of the chief's death, and they all cornered him in order to capture him alive. But Yuma stopped them and slapped Takesa in the face, making him remember about his duty to protect the ninjas. Itoki approached his mother and asked if she really wanted to protect the IGA clan, but at that moment, she mentioned that she wants to tell him something in private. So Itoki and Yuma began to leave the room for a conversation elsewhere, but Kyrie decided to eavesdrop on them. However, a man stopped her and began talking about Itoki and that he thought she was the greatest saint in the world after Pope Francis. Somehow, his words made her repent from her sins, and she remembered her cruel past when she was a child. So she sends a bird with a secret message to Suzuku, which said that it was just another peaceful day at the IGA house. Inside the room, Yuma began telling Itoki all their secrets and why they were the most powerful ninja clan in the world. She wondered if he was ready to become the greatest ninja of them all, so he told her that he was. A week later, Ku hurried to tell Itoki and his friends that the academy was closed down as a lot of students were mysteriously vanishing. Later that day, they were informed about a ninja committee meeting which only happened once in several decades to decide the future of every clan. By the following day, Yuma began to leave for the meeting, promising to return as soon as it was over. At the meeting, Yuma, Takesa, and Ku met the leaders of other clans as Gashigara, a police officer of the committee, began. They soon discovered that a few clan leaders were missing from the meeting. They were clans who supported Yuma and her village. As she began wondering what happened to them, she thought the Koga clan were responsible for their disappearance. Gashigara said that the Koga clan were looking to start a war by annihilating every ninja clan in the world and stealing their resources for themselves. Since the committee meetings were meant to arrest leaders causing chaos, he decided to arrest the clan's leader himself. The other clans stood in support of his arrest, but a man suddenly walked into the room introducing himself as Genji, another police officer of the committee. He began accusing Yuma of eliminating the Koga leader, showed a video of the murder, and concluded that a member of her clan committed the atrocity, immediately demanding her arrest. But Takesa stood in his way, ready to slay him in that instant. However, Yuma stopped him and began to follow them. That evening, after Itoki and the others were informed about her arrest, Takesa mentioned that her mother left a secret message for him. It was to take care of the IGA village, so Itoki knew what he had to do. Meanwhile, at the Koga town hall, the ninjas blamed the IGA village for the arrest of their acting chief, so they declared war on the IGA village and decided to annihilate each and every one of them. Dashera, the first captain of the Ninja Security Council, informed his team to follow their own sense of justice from now on, since he would be privately investigating something else. Back in his room, he kept watching the video evidence Genji had brought to the conference, and he noticed something strange about it. However, at that moment, he was stabbed from behind by none other than Genji, who appeared to be working for Koga. Gashigara was killed. By the following day, with the villagers all gathered together, Itoki declared himself as their new acting chief until her mother returned. Meanwhile, Genji approached Yuma, who was locked up in her cell, and sentenced her to death. We then see the backstory of the fragile acting chief of Koga, Kyrie. He was born weak and had no physical ability, which is why he was labeled as a failure. He despised the ninja world and wanted them all to just disappear. Back in the present, a call was made to the Sega village, and they were told to activate the latest weapon, constructed robot ninjas. At the Ninja Security Council, Genji announced that since it had been 3 days since Gaara had contacted them, all the responsibilities would be handed over to him. However, he announced that the Koga leader was innocent and Yuma was to be sentenced to death. The rookie Cheyenne objected to his statements, but he appointed her as the new 1st Division captain, knowing she was not capable enough to be one. So Cheyenne and her team knew something fishy was going on, and they decided to act according to the will of Gashigara. In a change of scene, Genji and Kyrie arrive at Yuma's prison cell, and they propose a deal to her. However, she already knew they would want the secret ninja core in exchange for her freedom, so she refused to do so. Back at the IGA clan house, Takesa receives news about Yuma's execution, and he calls Itoki and Ketsu to talk in private. At a meeting later that day, the villagers suggested rescuing Yuma before she was executed, but others were afraid of riling the committee. Takesa thought the committee were taking sides of the Koga clan and offered to slay them all in their sleep, but the others were afraid of starting a war. Suddenly, they all began staring at Itoki, waiting to hear his decision. However, when he continued staring like a lost, confused boy trapped in the woods, Ketsu flew at him with a knife. Having seen enough of his stupidity, she thought that annihilating him would be better for everyone. After all, he was good for nothing. Since Yuma had adopted her when she was a little girl and raised her like her own daughter, she had become her only family. Ketsu was determined to save her from those and was looking to make the decision herself if Itoki was too soft for it. However, Itoki decided to man up, and as she released him, he began coughing and soon agreed to rescue Yuma. It was a decision that would cast them into a war with the committee. He ordered Takesa and Ketsu to rescue his mother, while the rest of the IGA members were ordered to gather information and evidence to prove that IGA village was innocent. Meanwhile, in the Koga clan base, Suzaku arrived at the office of Kyrie, having been informed by Kyrie of the plans to rescue Yuma. He thought that this was their perfect opportunity to annihilate everyone in the village. As Ketsu and Takesa were both away for the rescue, he swiftly declared his desire to lead the raid on Itoki's home, and Kyrie agreed to his wish. But his father disagreed and told him that he was only a child, but he refused and ran away. Kyrie called for an urgent meeting amongst the Koga clan leaders to ask their opinion if they should attack IGA village. However, half of the leaders followed Suzaku's father and disagreed with the notion of a war. But at that moment, Kyrie shot him in the chest, ending his life with the phrase that there was no place for cowards in Koga. Back at the IGA house, Kyrie told them about news in the city on an attack that was making everyone run home, but they had no idea what it meant. Right then, Ku hurried in, telling them that the Koga clan were coming to eliminate everyone in the village, and that the news around the city was a mere diversion from the nearing attack. A moment later, Riha opened a secret door in the room that would momentarily keep them safe. A brave ninja from the IGA clan called Shay activated the secret flame defense system of their clan right in the middle of the road. He operated the heavy cavalry and machine guns to maximize damage on the Koga ninjas. However, the mechanical robot ninjas pushed through the defense easily, and with a cigarette in his hand, Shay self-destructed himself to take out the enemy forces, dying with dignity and taking out 21% of the forces. Meanwhile, Ketsu and Takeisa arrived at the prison to rescue Yuma, and after pretending to lose their way, Ketsu swiftly put the security to sleep. Immediately, they switched into their ninja suits and ran through the prison. Before Ketsu kicked down the window, she threw a smoke bomb as the prison guards charged at them, and the both of them blew past the security, blocking their attacks and knocking them to the ground. Soon they arrived at Yuma's cell, and after telling her that Itoki ordered for her rescue, Ketsu kicked down the door. However, just as they hurried outside, they came across the scumbag in a new set of security. Takeisa told Ketsu to rescue Yuma, so she caused a smoke bomb and vanished with the distraction as Takeisa impaled the men before they could run after them. Meanwhile, in Aoki's village, a ninja tried stabbing a robot, but another came flying at him as he narrowly dodged and watched it jump out of sight. As another fighter faced off with two bots, one jumped behind him and impaled his knee, but he stabbed it. Another flew at him with a kunai, but it stopped and began jumping back into the darkness before it soon killed the last one. In Aoki's home, they discovered that the Koga clan were fighting the IGA ninjas with robots. The enemies were endless, and Riha thought it was only a matter of time before the robots breached their defense and found their way inside. Itoki suggested withdrawing everyone into the family home, but Riha thought that would be shooting themselves in the foot. As they began wondering why the robots weren't attacking with all their forces, Ryoko asked to see one of the robots. A moment later, Riha placed a robot on the floor before them, and Ryoko began unscrewing it. When she was done, she discovered that the bots were running on low battery and could only function for half an hour. With this, she concluded that there must be a charging area nearby so that the robots can charge and attack in rotations. Itoki realized that blowing up the chargers was the only way to win the battle. As soon as Riha picked up the location for the chargers, he decided to take the risk of destroying them. Ryoko decided to follow him since her father created the robots. Kyrie, however, told them that she wasn't going with them since she had to play spy for Suzuku. Meanwhile, at the prison, Takeisa had slain all the security and was looking to slay Genji, but another team of the committee arrived led by a new official, Cheyenne. She had worked with Gaara before his murder and discovered that Genji slayed him. She commanded her team to arrest him, but as two of the men flew at him, he caught their hands midair, determined not to get caught. However, Takeisa grabbed him from behind and put him asleep before walking away. At the same time, Ketsu and Yuma arrived on a mountain and discovered that the village was under attack by the Koga clan. When Ketsu thought that they were better off staying away, Yuma told her that she wished to fight for the village. Meanwhile, inside the village, Itoki and Ryoko found the chargers, and Itoki suggested blowing them up in that instant with the majority of the Koga forces away at the moment. He thought that this was their only chance at destroying these pieces of garbage. So Ryoko gave him the bombs she made that were sure to blow everything up to smithereens. They thought about putting the bombs on the chargers, but now wondered how they would get close enough before getting spotted. So Ryoko decided to show him a bomb that would shut down the robots for a few seconds. When they were ready, Itoki rushed out of the bush towards the machines, and Ryoko threw up the bomb, causing the bots to freeze in that instant. Before long, Itoki was kicked back by Suzuku, who was looking to destroy him like in the exam. Immediately, Itoki threw a disc into the air, and Ryoko took Suzuku down as he began running again, looking to put the bomb on the charger. However, the robots all came alive and caught him immediately along with Ryoko. One machine took the bomb from him and suddenly began running towards the charger, but Himura ran after him, and as he tackled him to the ground, he discovered that the bomb was already on it. Utilizing his chance, Itoki directed the disc, smashing it into the bomb and blowing up everything in its path. A moment later, Ryoko helped Itoki to his feet, and as they tried leaving, he returned to the person lying on the ground. As her mask broke, they discovered that she was Kyrie. She had pretended to be a bot and helped get the bomb on the charger as her way of helping them for her betrayal. As the bots began coming alive, Itoki carried Kyrie in his arms and began running off. In Aoki's home, Yuma and Ketsu arrived, happy to see everyone safe, but suddenly Ketsu began moving around and screaming like she was in terrible pain. It appeared that Genji had used a weird mind control jutsu on her and was now in complete control of her actions. Before long, she held a katana to Yuma's throat, threatening to kill her and demanding to know where their secret core was hidden. She led Yuma into a room and shoved her to the floor as her eyes glowed like she was possessed by some evil spirit. She pointed her kunai at Yuma, but she stood bravely before her and took a slash to the face. However, she walked closer to her, putting the kunai aside and taking off Ketsu's mask to realize that she was biting hard on her lip, fighting to be free from the control over her mind. Yuma thought something strange was happening to her, but everyone thought she was another spy and betrayer for the Koga clan. As Yuma held her close, Ketsu began screaming again, fighting to regain control over her mind and trying to call her mother. Suddenly, she fell, and Yuma hurried to her, but as she tried waking her up, Ketsu stabbed her with the kunai and killed her on the spot. Itoki and his friend arrived, and as he ran through the house screaming for his mother, he found her lying on the floor and hurried to her, but it was too late. Immediately, Ku took down Ketsu, wondering why she killed Yuma, but the girl couldn't answer as she didn't know what came over her. Soon, Takesa ran in, shocked to find Yuma dead, and as he watched Itoki cry over his mother, he thought his worst fear had come to pass. The next day, Riha told Itoki that he must take on the full responsibility of being the clan's leader. With Yuma dead, the village was waiting for his decision on their war with the Koga clan. However, Itoki could only remember how his mother had died, how the villagers had tried to save her, and how his frustration had caused him to scream at Takesa. That evening, with everyone gathered together, Itoki put his thumb on the contract and became the true leader of the clan. However, he wasn't happy, and as the villagers began demanding retaliation on the Koga clan, he merely stared at them. One villager thought Ketsu was the greatest betrayer in the world for killing Yuma and deserved to have her head chopped off like a fish, but Itoki was terrified at the mere thought of it. She had been his protector for several years, and had saved him from trouble more times than he could remember. Soon, the villagers began suggesting an all-out war on the Koga clan, annihilating them. But Itoki was too chicken to decide, so he asked for another meeting after his mother was buried. A few days later, Ryoko and Kyrie told him that they were returning home, but as Itoki thought of not seeing them again, he knew that he would be very lonely. The following day, as they were leaving, Ryoko told him to protect Ketsu, as she was convinced that some weird experiment took place in her mind. However, Itoki wasn't certain that he could save her from her fate. As they left, Takesa summoned Itoki inside and led him into a separate house where he found Ketsu tied up. Takesa told him that she had been trying to annihilate herself since she regained control of her mind. He decided to ask her what she remembered, but even she couldn't remember anything that happened. She had heard a terrible noise inside her head that caused her to lose control, but she thought it was a dream. As she began crying, she asked Itoki to eliminate her, but Takesa told her that she was important to them. Soon, he began telling her that her father was Kidu, leader of the Koga clan, and that she was hypnotized when she was a little girl before getting abandoned on the street. The Koga leader had hoped to spy on the IGA village by having Yuma adopt her and had waited for several years before killing her. Ketsu wondered why she wasn't kicked out all those years ago, so Takesa told her that Yuma loved her as her own daughter. At these words, Ketsu began crying and blamed herself for Yuma's death, but Takesa thought that someone else may have snuck into the room and murdered her. As she continued crying, Itoki held her close to him. Somewhere else, Kyrie returned to the Fuma clan house to her father. However, it appeared that he had sold her out to the Koga clan, and there should be no witnesses alive. But at that moment, just before the ninjas could attack her, he pushed her through a secret passage under the house, and moments later, he self-destructed along with the other ninjas in order to save his daughter. A few days later, the villagers attended Yuma's burial, and later that night, Itoki was alone as he continued staring at her photograph. Soon Suzaku appeared behind him and began walking to her shrine. As he paid his last respects, he wondered if Itoki finally understood his grief, and as he began walking away, he called him a chicken. So Itoki punched his face, but he lunged at him, and they crashed through the window. Itoki wondered why he had a crazy obsession for revenge, since even he wasn't desiring revenge for his mother's death. But Suzaku only cared to see their village crumble to dust and swiftly pushed him off, telling him that his bitter and rotten soul was beyond redemption. Later, Suzaku went back to his father's office and began looking at a picture of him with his father. However, he noticed something was moving inside the picture, so he opened the back clips of the frame and found a USB stick inside. He opened the USB to find some confidential video files inside. He clicked on a video and was shocked to see that it was actually Kidu who had killed the catch. Kidu wanted to kill every last ninja in the world and wanted to be the last remaining ninja in this world. The next day, The villagers told Itoki about a letter from the Koga clan who were demanding their secret core. They wanted Itoki to grant their request for war, but he still wouldn't and asked for a few more days to consider his decision. That night, he returned to his mother's shrine, sad and confused, wondering if he was the person for the job as he was caught between the difficult choice of protecting the village and sending them off to war. After a few days, Itoki arrived for another meeting with the clan and informed them that he would be passing their secret core to the Koga clan and would demand half their resources in return. However, the villagers thought that he had lost his mind and needed a long nap. But Itoki told them that his decision was the only way to protect the village and the people and was looking to stick with it. He threatened to kick out everyone that wasn't in support and began walking away. But after a few days, Shine told him that the Koga clan were unwilling to share their own resources and were looking to attack the village again for the core. Meanwhile, Kyrie arrived at Ryoko's home to find it burned to the ground by the Koga clan. Both villages had been incinerated, and Kyrie had nowhere else to go. Inside the home, she found Ryoko, who was working on a bomb to blow up the Koga clan, but Kyrie thought that she was better off settling down and finding a husband. However, she soon began crying, sad to be the only one left in her village with nothing more to lose. Kyrie decided to tell her that she had been spying for the Koga clan and aided their attack on the IGA village. She thought that she was the greatest sinner in the world and also began crying. However, Ryoko thought that she was worth being redeemed and decided to embrace her. In Aoki's village, the clan demanded his resignation, calling him a baby who couldn't pick his own nose, but he was determined to be the alpha male and called his position his birthright. That night, the clan gathered outside, ready to abduct Itoki and forcefully kick him out, but while they were waiting for Ku's orders, Riha began running toward Itoki's room and soon realized that it was empty. As she started reading the paper on his desk, Ku entered the room wondering why she left her position outside, and in that moment he realized that she killed Yuma and intended to end Itoki as well. Immediately, she tried slashing at him, but he blocked and smacked her in the face. Itoki had earlier told him about a spy in their clan who had murdered Yuma and wanted Ketsu to take responsibility for her murder. So in an attempt to discover the spy, he had decided to play the role of a rook. Ku began wondering why she had decided to betray her own village. So she told him that the Koga leader had promised to awaken her husband with a great sorcery and immediately killed herself. Kozo found a handwritten letter of Itoki in which he had apologized for his methods of finding the traitor. He revealed that he had now planned to break inside the headquarters of Koga using the secret core's energy and end it once and for all. So he ordered everyone to run away and not to engage in battle against the army of ninjas sent by Koga. However, Ku and the Eigen ninjas decided to fight the Koga ninjas in order to help Itoki's cause. At the same time, Itoki, Kusetsu, and Takesa began walking to the Koga base. Since the Koga clan were heading to destroy their own village, they hoped to destroy theirs in return. However, Itoki wanted to be the sacrificial lamb and asked Takesa and Ketsu to return to the village, but they wouldn't listen to him. They thought that they would also make some fine mutton sacrifice and were determined to support him. Inside the Koga base, a receptionist pressed the buzzer as they walked in, alerting the security, but Itoki merely asked to speak with the Koga leader. Soon they were surrounded by robots, and Ketsu flew into the air kicking the machines, and Itoki slashed them as a bomb went off. Ryoko appeared in the smoke, knocking down a bot, and Kyrie slashed another. They came to support him and were looking to bring down the Koga clan, so Kyrie decided to apologize for spying on his village and swiftly ran off. Ryoko punched and kicked off the enemies, and Kyrie kicked them back, allowing Itoki and his clan to run up the stairs. Soon they came across 3 enemies and 100 robots jumped in their way, so Itoki drew the power from his secret core and flashed through them, slaying them in an instant. However, he fell from exhaustion as the core burned up his strength. Immediately, the Koga clan fired ropes at him, but Takesa got in the way, causing Ketsu to create smoke and rescue him swiftly. Takesa pulled them towards him and knocked them off before running through the smoke. As Itoki and Ketsu walked toward the office, they found Amira and a man waiting for them. Ketsu decided to fight them herself, but Suzaku appeared behind them with a flame, and as he burned the ground, the flames formed a wall allowing Itoki and Ketsu to run off. Soon they met the Koga leader, Kidu, and Itoki asked him to stay off their property in exchange for his core, but he thought that wasn't enough. He wanted the entire world to himself and desired to see all ninja villages burn to ashes. Itoki had no intent of killing him, he suggested waiting for his backup forces to arrive. However, Itoki began wondering why he caused his mom to be murdered. So Kiru told him that he was the George of the jungle and chose whoever lived and died. These words made Itoki furious, and as his core began to glow, he tried drawing his sword, but Kisetsu stopped him, realizing that Kiru was looking to tempt him into attacking. So as they began to leave, Kiru activated his core and shot at them, but Ketsu blocked it and was blown away. Kiru continued shooting at Itoki, but he ran, dodging the blasts, and got smacked to the ground. Itoki rushed at him, slashing his sword, but the old man punched him away and blasted a hole in the wall. He thought Itoki was a baby who needed to get his diaper changed, but Itoki told him that he was a grown man who was fit to have babies of his own. As he charged at him again, the man drew his gun, but Ketsu caught him, allowing Itoki to slash his breastplate, but he was unscathed and punched her away as he blocked Itoki's sword and knocked him back. They rushed at each other, attacking with continued punches and pushing with their fists in a show of power. As Itoki overpowered him, he hit him with a powerful blow to the side and another to the head, sending him into the wall. Itoki told him to repent from his sins and to eat Big Macs every day, but Kuru thought chicken nuggets tasted better. So as they started leaving, he decided to seal the debate by ending him with a bullet, but Takesa stabbed him in the heart to kill him and take all the blame on his head. However, Shine ran in at that moment hoping to arrest the Koga leader, but found him dead. So Takesa bid Ketsu and Itoki goodbye, realizing that he would become the most wanted man in the ninja world, and flew off. After a moment, Itoki and Ketsu began returning to the village, wondering what the future of the ninja world would look like for them.